Hello and welcome to another episode of The Aftermath. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by
me,
the main man,
Dylan. This time it's a real aftermath.
Oh, man. Oh, I get it.
Buddy.
I see. Because we killed an entire... I'm not going to spoil it. In this movie, we just watched for this version for this episode of the podcast. We get to see the exploitation of children, for military means.
What else is new?
And and it really does. There's it gets deep, and we'll get there. This and more coming up in your favorite episode of The Aftermath.
I catch right now. Cut to commercial break.
I don't have like a little sizzler reel.
We'll make a graphic for that later.
Yeah. I'll add a little jingle in.
Yes.
But before we get into all that, how you doing, buddy? How's everything going?
Dude, I'm tired.
Yeah. Well, you're
even more so than usual.
Yeah. I was going to say, you have anything like you're doing that's like causing you to be tired, or just
work?
Oh, okay.
It feels like I've been working nonstop.
I see. Yeah, right. Busting your chops with 2 jobs right now, so
kind of gotta do what you gotta do. But other than that, it's just been going through the new season in Destiny.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Before we touch on that, we had a little minor conversation that you working, like you going from one job to the next job,
right?
Brought back some old memories from whenever actually this podcast first kind of started.
Oh yeah.
Where like we had that kind of little minor discussion in the kitchen where I was like, I didn't want to give up on doing the podcast because I was having so much fun with it, but it required some work, and then I was also working at my like coffee shop job, and then also as like the production job. Right. So I was like going from one to the other, and then also coming home going, oh, okay, guys, let's watch a movie for the podcast. And I was like,
everybody
like trying
ready
to
record.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it just brought back those kind of memories where I was like, oh man, that was a time, and I forgot about that.
Boy, howdy.
But yes, the new season of Destiny did come out, and I am unashamed to say that I learned from my failures. I judged Destiny too early because I don't think I fully understood what it was. I may have said this in the podcast before, but just for those of you who may not know, I'll clarify now. That for long-time listeners of the podcast, you know of Dakota. We've talked about him. He's been on at least 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Dakota and Dylan both were trying to have been, for the past.
There was a wayward mention here and there.
Yeah, there was a talk and friends trying to convince me like, hey, come play a cool game with us. And I was like, okay, it doesn't take that much. Like my friends are together.
Better that we did it now than whenever the game first came out, because that would have been a waste of fucking money.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So needless to say, like I tried the game, and I don't think I fully adjusted my expectation for what I thought it was.
It didn't quite click right away.
And so I think I judged the game too harshly on what I thought that it was. Mm-hmm. And then after seeing you play the game a handful of times, and I had really started to and I played it like 2 or 3 times, like once or twice every couple of months. So I was really not giving it its fair shot. After I started thinking about, after I played it that like handful of times, I really thought like, oh, this game is not what I think I thought it was. Yeah. And then I was like, let me just clear my slate, wipe it clean, and let me just go in and just give the game a shot, just for what it is. Mm-hmm. And then when I found out what it really was, and for those of you who don't know, it is like a first-person shooter game, but it also functions a lot like most MMOs do. Mm-hmm. And if anybody doesn't know this, MMOs are like
He's a big MMO guy.
Oh, dude, it's really it really is my weak spot. I just love them. I love games where I can just like hop in and like do something, do a task, complete some things, and like kind of keep that. And it's also like a fun repetition or like a fun kind of thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm not so much into the grinding aspect, but they're like, if it is a fun grind that we're doing, like something that's also productive and cool, I enjoy that. And it's like my weakness. It's all, again, PlanetSide 2,
Yeah.
probably one of the games
Right.
I've spent the most time in,
Oh, yeah.
is a flavor of that.
Mm-hmm.
But this one has like a really good story, I think, and like it has a robust like
Over
world.
time, it got to that point.
Right.
But, man, it was a rough ride to get there.
Tell me a little bit about. Well, I guess I'm not going to tell me too much about it, but
I'll give you the big rundown. So I'm going to start from where I started with the first game.
Right.
They establish the world in a way that you are resurrected by a ghost.
Okay.
He tells you, you're going to be a guardian of humanity in the last safe city on Earth. I'm like, okay, how the fuck did that happen?
Right.
Oh, you know.
Yeah, no, it just happened.
It just happened. And I'm like, I mean, all right, I guess.
Yeah, way to kick me in the door.
Right. They almost brush it off. Like,
oh, okay, I see.
In one of the cutscenes, whenever you get to the tower, you talk to the speaker.
Oh.
Who, in contrast to his name, does a hell of a lot less speaking than you would hope.
For the speaker does not enough speaking.
Right. Like, this dude's like a historian of sorts who's kept records of many events that have happened.
Right.
And he walks like down from his steps where he's got like a whole fucking library, it looks like, and he's like, I could tell you so much about how how shit happened.
Right.
How we got to this point. It's like,
please, I'm all ears.
Like, no.
No,
I won't.
No. There's more important things to do.
It's like, here, have this gun. Go kill things. Like,
okay. I mean, all right, but why am I here?
I'm great with shooting shit, but I'd much rather shoot the shit with you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like, tell me why I'm shooting stuff.
Yeah.
Give me a motivation here.
So, yeah, it was bare bones.
I see.
Like, there was nothing.
And that was Destiny 1.
Yes.
I see.
Now, I've told you before, Destiny 2 started about the same way.
Oh, okay.
But with a little bit more of a preamble. Having played the first game, I was well in tuned with the goings-on of the world.
Oh, okay, I see. So it was more like I can give it a pass because I do kind of understand what's happening.
Right, I've done my homework. I did some reading.
right, yeah.
Because that's what you had to do. None of the story was in the game. They had like this little companion app with the Grimoire.
Oh,
You would unlock these cards as you kept playing and reached like certain milestones.
Right.
And you could go onto the app and read about shit.
I
which
see.
was cool. I actually liked reading about the stuff about the world. I just wish it was in the fucking game.
Right, yeah.
So,
that
yeah.
One thing.
Otherwise, I'm hooked. I hate it, and I can't stop playing.
Come on, you don't hate it that much, do you?
I love it, and I hate it.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I'm still in that love phase right now. So
you'll get there.
Okay.
Don't you worry.
Okay, man. Because I have played MMOs where
You probably won't. I'm just messing.
I know. I have
See,
played.
you started off in the best position possible.
Right. I've played games where like development changes or chain of command changes or studios change or whatever. MMOs specifically, where you have this kind of like living, breathing world that like needs tender love and care to like kind of keep itself going.
Yeah.
And sometimes, people fall off the horse or people, or things don't happen the way they're supposed to, or all that kind of stuff. So I've been in that position where I'm like, I love this game so much, but I hate the way it's being developed.
Yeah.
I hate the way it's going. So I understand. But anyways, to kind of get back to the point before we get too off the rails here. No, I'm not finished. Let me finish up what I'm saying.
Never mind. No movie.
After I figured out what kind of game it was, gave it its shot and like found the kind of rhythm that it takes, I was like, I see now. I was like, yeah, I get it.
Okay.
And the problem is now I too am like Dylan. I'm like, man, I can't stop playing it.
Yeah.
It just I found the niche and I've been really going at it and I love it. It's a really cool looking game. It's cool. It's beautiful looking. It also, the music is wonderful. And again, there is some robust lore that I don't quite know all the stuff to yet. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I am a better person now. and not, I don't need to
He's
be
not
told.
like me.
I don't. No. I'm talking about like I don't need my hand needs to be held.
Oh yeah, okay.
I can just be.
Yeah.
I can live in this world, and I can be a guardian in this world, and go. I know what's going on, kind of, but I don't need to know
Right.
everything. I don't need to know,
okay.
and that's okay. And I'm like, but I wasn't like that before, but I
Yeah.
am now, and it's okay. It's a fun game. So, anyways, needless to say, that has been my little jaunt with you through that game.
We still got to play Armored Core.
Oh man.
We still have to play Armored Core.
I want to play Armored Core so bad, dude. In between work, the podcast, trying to tiptoe around Destiny a little bit. It's
watching Zeta.
Watching Zeta, dude. I feel like there's not enough time in the
just
week,
slow
man.
down to like a snail's pace.
There's not enough time in the week. There's so many things we want to do, and there's feels like there's so little time.
Yeah.
And I just need to carve out some time. We need to like set aside a couple days and just really grind through it, man.
I'm going to set aside a whole week.
Oh man, it'd be so nice. Just take some time off and just be at the house. That'd be so nice.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to the topic at hand. The reason why you came here, most likely, I mean, I would hope that you also come for our charming disposition.
Fucking maybe.
Damn.
It's a big if.
Why don't you call us out? But we watched a movie called Ender's Game.
Yeah.
Now,
go
ahead.
Now. This is a movie based on a book.
Yes.
Already that's going to be a red flag for some of you.
For some people, yes.
For good reason.
Mm-hmm.
I have not read this book. Neither has Ian.
No, I've not.
So,
but
you'll have to suspend your judgments.
I have heard that it is a good book, though.
That's good.
And I now I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the movie adaptation a lot of times is never better than the book.
Right.
But I've heard that for what it is, it's not a bad adaptation. Mm-hmm. I don't think.
I think after having watched this film, I might enjoy the book more.
Right. Yes, I believe that.
Because throughout the film, you can tell they like touch on some things, but they don't expound upon
I was going to touch on that as the more we talk. Mm-hmm. There is some parts in the movie that you're like, I can tell that there's some more time happening here that they're not expanding upon, obviously, because we're limited to like a...
Yeah, they're like laser focused on the main character.
It is just shy of 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah, the movie. So it's like, okay, to get it under 2 hours, like you have to...
Right. Got to trim the fat a bit.
Exactly, which is understandable. It happens.
Movie ain't the same thing as a book.
Exactly.
Surprised.
The one thing I've tried to tell people so many times, and I said this numerous times with Hunger Games as well as Game of Thrones, people that judge the book and judge the movie the same way, I don't think they're giving either one the credit for what it is.
Yeah, it's not fair.
The book, I was like, you have to think that the book is inside the mind sometimes of the person that's talking. A lot of times they may not say things explicitly outright, but they're thinking something.
Right.
And you get to hear their words as if you were in their head, whereas the actor then has to convey that with no words.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it is also a feat that's like, if you already have the idea, the knowledge from like what's supposed to go on, it can make that scene a little bit better if you give it the chance. But you can also take that and go like, they're not expanding upon, this, that, and the other. And it's like, you could look at it both ways. But anyways, that's not part of the gripes. This movie came out in 2013.
Oh my god!
And I had no idea it was that long ago.
Me neither. I knew it was like old, but
right.
Why is that old?
I know.
Fuck.
It is almost 10 years old. It's 9 years old right now.
Oh my god.
I used to work with an actor in our local area. I used to work with a casting director. Just a little behind the curtain here.
Yeah.
I used to...
Developer commentary.
Right, developer commentary. So I used to work with her kind of as like an intern/assistant kind of thing. She would like show me the ropes, get me in front of other casting directors, and kind of would get me some roles and stuff.
Yeah.
And I would also like do coffee runs, do lunch runs, and like also again I was
secretary type shit.
Right, but I was also pretty good at like camera stuff. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times she was not. She was a sweet lady, maybe in her like 40s or 50s, and had no technological know-how. So a lot of times things would break, and she's like, "Ian, I have no idea how this works. Could you help me?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, I got it. Don't worry about it." And a lot of times I would. It was like a trade-off kind of thing. Yeah. I would do that kind of work, and a lot of times
a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Sometimes I would get paying gigs from her, and then at the same time I would also like kind of get in front of some very important people. And I did some work and did some like extra work and did some paying gigs and got on some pretty big sets that I was like, wow, I could not have done this without this relationship.
Right.
This friendship.
It's all about who you know.
Exactly. So I'm setting all that up because there was she used to work with like young adults and kids and stuff. And one of her students that I like did a bunch of filming stuff for and did auditions with him, he went on to be like a pretty well-known actor and like has done other stuff before. I'm not going to name drop him. He's successful and doing his own thing. I'm proud of him. Mm-hmm. He was a really talented kid. He was kind of out of the entire class. He was the one that was like really serious about it and really enjoyed it. And you're like,
he's going to go places.
Yeah, you're applying yourself and you're doing a great job and like you're really going to go somewhere. And he did. He was actually an extra in this film, and we saw him, and I think he showed up a few more times. Very ancillary. I couldn't think of the word. Character, just really off on the side. But it was one of the squad members or whatever, and I got to see him.
The salamander team.
Exactly. I got to see him for a second. I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. I knew he was in this movie. I didn't know where or like how or how big his role was.
Keeping your eye out for him.
Right. And so when I saw him, I was like, look, there he is, my buddy. And so it was really interesting though to see to see that kind of thing, but it was really strange.
Blast from the past.
Yeah, exactly. Especially 2013, man. I remember whenever he went away for a while to go film this, and I remember that, and it doesn't feel like it's that long ago, but it is.
Okay, just so you know, folks, just so it doesn't get old. Most of this episode may end up being us just cringing at how old we are.
No.
But we're not even that old.
No, we're not even that old.
We're not old yet.
Right.
I'm still young.
Anyways, so this movie I thought had a great setup.
Yeah.
Great first act. Mm-hmm. Great third act. But the middle portion, that's
where it kind of lost you.
I wouldn't say lost me, is that it felt like, and I think I read this somewhere, is that the timeline of the book from like him becoming like a cadet to like being a person in higher rank,
the admiral.
Yes, well, not even that level. I'm talking about like from that to like the climax of like the fighting,
right,
of like the actual aliens, was like a larger gap of time where like he got to grow up a little bit before he got to that point. Yeah. Whereas I think this movie was supposed to have like summarized all of it in a year, supposedly. God. So it's like, with that being said, you can imagine things feel like they're a little rushed.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We're going from like one scene to the next, and it feels like we are jumping in what feels like time, but it's not really. But you're like, but they do a good enough job for, I think, what's being asked of them. But it definitely feels a little bit like we're trying to, it feels like it's the most rushed way to like, we need to establish some character development. We need to establish some relationships. We need to get these guys going. Yeah. We got to make it quick because we got to get to that action.
It's just going from story beat to story beat without much in the way of
there is some development, and you can see it, and I can understand that. There's some kind of jokey bits kind of in between.
Right.
To kind of make it a little more lighthearted. But I feel like if the movie was maybe 20, 30 minutes longer and had like some more kind of flushed out bits, it may have felt dragged on, but it may have also kind of made that transition a little more smooth. I feel like I could be very wrong, but But that's the only thing I think as far as like a gripe goes. Like they really did a good job, I think, setting up who this character is, like what's going on, what his motivation is, and of course, obviously, like whenever he is where he's supposed to be, like really making him shine.
Oh yeah.
But it was just this kind of this like awkward section that was like, we're obviously trying to get to something, but it just felt like we're constantly trying to get there. It's
Right.
like, but anyways, what about you? Is there anything in particular that you had like a gripe or that you really enjoyed about this movie?
I couldn't really name much that I disliked other than the fact that there are children.
Yes. It feels right out of Gundam.
I mean, really,
it feels like they took a real big inspiration from
ridiculous.
Gundam. They're like, we are under attack, and we have this new program that we're too old to really comprehend.
For some reason, they put all of their chips into the world's smartest children, the most tactically
Which,
minded
I mean,
kids.
okay, hear me out now. That does sound smart, but it sounds smart in the way like, let's invest in our most intelligent children to make them into the
leaders of tomorrow.
Yes, to make them capable young adults/adults, so that way whenever we need to, they can fill in our spots and do it efficiently and do it well. Especially because, again, we're in a place where hypothetically aliens could attack us.
Right.
So it's like let's prepare these young, bright individuals for the future that could be or could not be.
Right. Now, I'd be okay with this plan if it was a long-term plan.
Exactly.
But they are
no.
They are trying to
You're
trying
15
to just shove as much military knowledge into these fuckers as they
You're
can.
15, kind of smart and like or strategic in some way. Hired.
Hey, you look okay. Get in.
Get your what do they
Here's
call
a
it?
ship.
Get your fatigues on. We're gonna go to war. You're like, what?
Like within the span of a few months, they're trying to train these kids and prep them for fleet command.
Now, again, I do think that some of that may be the shortcomings of the timeline of the film.
Right.
Some of that may be stretched out more in the book.
I'm sure it takes a more appropriate amount of time in the book.
The way that this film feels like it was written is it feels like it was written from the perspective of the youngest son of three.
Yeah.
That has to go to war.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like. It feels like there's a couple of times in the film where he writes to his sister, who I'm assuming is the middle child.
Yeah. Has
a very strong connection with her.
Right.
There's a couple of times where like he talks about it in this like this aspect of like, I'm the last hope for our family. Like I'm the youngest of three, so I'm useless, or it kind of sounds a little sad, and it's like
he keeps calling himself a third.
Yes,
like there's some sort of birth constraint placed on the population. I'm assuming there is.
Right. Well, and I think that he even mentions that. I think in this universe, he
wasn't
mentions
even supposed to be born.
Right, and then of course his mom was like, "We got the approval.
We had to get permission.
We had to get permission to have you." And I was like, "Oh wow."
Like, shit must be fairly dire.
Right. I think they were talking about overpopulation possibly at some point, so that may be a factor.
Right.
But yeah, it's a really interesting premise to a movie or a book as well. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was really I thought it was a decent film altogether. It says that Ender's Game bombed at the box office though. Oof. It was called one of the biggest box office bombs of the year.
Oh my god!
I didn't know this, and it says that's partially why the studio canceled any plans to complete the series of.
Oh yeah, it was supposed to have more.
Right. There are countless reasons why the movie had this supposedly, which I don't. Wait, let me see here. I'm curious.
What do the words say?
Well, they kind of disappeared on me.
Oh, shit.
I clicked the rest of the article, and of course, it's like
just like the rest of the series.
Yeah, right. It basically said that it was poorly cast and bad marketing. It was a tired story, apparently. It was a bunch of other stuff. So I'm like, I don't know. I think it was cast pretty well.
Yeah, I didn't think it was too bad.
I liked the fact that it was not some kid that I probably already knew.
Right.
So, anyways, needless to say, I have seen far worse films.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And especially coming off the heels of Velocipaster, which is intentionally an awful film.
Yeah.
I thought this one...
What are you talking about? That's like one of the best films I've ever watched.
I don't know about that. But I liked the special effects in the film.
Oh, it was pretty.
It was a very nice
It
film.
was beautiful.
It was a couple times where I felt like I could see certain little flaws, but like it was very few and far between because it was very well done for what it was, especially if it's a failure of a movie,
right.
quote unquote. I thought
as
it did
the critics have dubbed it.
Okay, now I want to kind of touch on this topic that I have here.
Oh yeah.
And I had mentioned it while we were watching the film, but as I was thinking about it, I was like, let me elaborate later on the podcast where we have a discussion about things.
It's almost like we're going to be talking about this later regardless.
Right. Let me make this authentic conversation.
That we totally haven't rehearsed.
Right. Now let me look at my script. I'm sorry. Let me think about what I want to say next. I had mentioned while we were watching the film that out of all, I didn't think about this until we were really getting into this film.
Mm-hmm.
There is, if you can remind me, what are they called? The Formics?
I think so. Yeah,
they're called the Formics, or what is the alien race that we're fighting up against?
Yeah.
You learn later in the film what their kind of motivation is, but for the I'm going to say for the listening audience, they are a bug-like species that apparently it looks like they require water of some kind, and they harvest water, and I think it was on their home planet they just have made it.
Yeah, they're overpopulated.
Yes, severely. Mm-hmm. You don't really know that until later.
Yeah.
So apparently they had stumbled across Earth to try and harvest water.
Yeah.
And then of course they attacked or swarmed in the process of doing that to get what they wanted.
Right.
Which looked an awful lot like an Earth invasion.
Yeah. Independence Day type shit.
Yes. We defended ourselves, but at a very costly amount.
Yeah, millions were killed.
Right. Sad to say.
And from that point on, we just start building up military might. Like,
yes.
Nah, we're going to get
we start harvesting children to then become military super geniuses.
Oh,
as you do, Dylan. Stop. You
fucking apparent. I didn't realize it was such a widely accepted tactic.
You build a 5-story tall robot and you shove a child in it and you cause
by accident or otherwise.
By
this
accident
time they did it on purpose.
Yes, by accident or otherwise, and you just make him into the best super weapon the military can afford.
It's.
I thought you read the handbook beforehand.
I must have missed that little tangent in the manual. You'll have to excuse me.
It was a subsection B of the previous chapter. So anyways, all joking aside, that is basically what they plan on doing. They try to...
here it is, the shit kid contingent.
Yes, exactly. We must put this into effect if and when we are attacked by aliens.
It will always
yes.
work without fail.
Trust me. And if nothing else, if all the children die, it's okay. And it's totally fine if we lose a couple of kids around here.
They're a dime a dozen.
They're a dime a dozen. We can just pop them out.
Right.
I'm sorry, that was aggressive. I don't mean that. Aftermath neither confirms nor denies the abuse of children. I'm kidding. So anyways, what I'm saying is, whenever I was watching this and learning about this bug-like alien race, the more I started thinking about it, of all the species that are here on Earth, I was telling Dylan, it feels natural or normal for me to think about like the living organisms here on Earth. What feels normal is like animals and different species of some kind that have like organs or some sort of like fleshy creature. And I was like, even like lizards.
An outwardly soft exterior.
Oh, right. I was like, even like lizards or amphibians of some kind, reptiles, amphibians, fish, birds, like all of it has this sort of flesh and bone quality feel to it, which feels normal for Earth. But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, but bugs are another species on Earth that are widespread. They're everywhere.
Right.
Of all varieties, but they just feel the most alien to me of all of it.
Right.
So to think about like an alien race being a bug race, as like it feels what I would imagine it would be.
A lot of different alien species end up being based off of is bugs.
Right. Because
in
it's
some form or another.
Because just imagine like you take an ant or a cockroach, you make it big. That is terrifying.
Alien.
For me specifically, it feels like a monster almost.
Yeah. We should watch Them.
Oh no.
Old black and white flick about giant ants.
Yeah. Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. But like even if you think like of like a really massive spider, you're like, that looks like a monster of some kind.
Yeah.
With all the different eyes and legs.
There's a movie about that too.
I believe about it. I believe
Giant spider.
But it's like, it just, with these like exoskeletons, like I know it probably has like this kind of interior like I'm talking about, but it just feels so foreign as opposed to everything else.
Yeah.
So thinking about that, I was like, it makes the most sense for me to go like, oh yeah, like bug people being like an alien race.
Totally believable.
Or at least in some way.
Yeah.
And it makes it almost more, for me, I'm getting into my inner psyche here, if I want to be honest.
Yeah.
When it comes to like bugs and stuff, my moral compass is at a very low quality.
Yeah. See, where I draw the line is that if they serve a purpose, or if I just think they're cool.
Right.
Anything that is parasitic or just an annoyance is off the table for me.
And I agree with that as well. But for me in my current day-to-day life, if I'm being honest with you, I think my xenophobic tendencies really do get the best of me. and I think in that, like for instance, Mallory, my girlfriend, hates geckos, does not like geckos, does not like lizards. If I see a gecko or lizard, I will try my best, because especially like we live out kind of near the woods. So like in our utility room, that may not be, it's kind of like adjacent to the house.
Yeah.
It's in its own room, but like it is the closest to the outside. And sometimes even the door's shut, the fact that like a lizard kind of gets inside that part of like the house.
We'll find a little critter every now and then.
It's not a surprise that sometimes like a lizard will get into the utility room over there where like the washer and dryer is and stuff. Not a surprise.
Yeah.
If I see that guy, my first reaction is like, I'm going to catch you and bring you back out into the wild where you belong.
Yes.
If I see a big ass cockroach, that thing is dying. Killed on sight.
It is a
big
pest.
But I think cockroaches, or I mean even spiders in some way. If it's a big ass spider, a lot of maybe I may be a little more. I
don't want to kill a spider right away.
Maybe you're right.
Unless it's like a kind that I know for a fact is super deadly,
dude. But for me, it's like my first reaction is like, oh, you're gonna die now, and I feel
right.
and I feel bad. Yeah. I feel bad saying it because I'm
like.
Because it feels bad, but it's like, like I'm saying, if I look at like what I think of like a green field lizard, I don't know what they want to call them, or like a gecko, one of those guys that like chills out by your light and eats bugs.
Yeah,
I look at that guy,
go, buddy.
Yeah, I look at him and like, because you are like a flesh and bone, you have a heartbeat, you're
able to relate to flesh
I'm able to
as opposed to pedipalp and exoskeleton.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And it feels, like I said, that's why I said xenophobic. I was going to say racist, but it's not racist.
Yeah, see, I was about to say,
we
are talking about bugs, right?
That's exactly what it's talking about. So, like, I look at a lizard, and I'm like, I can catch you and put you back on the wild, and I'm okay with that, because I don't want to crush you. That feels
that's bad.
Hateful. Because I look at it the same way as, like, if you find like a stray cat, I'm like, I'm not going to go kill the cat, because I'm like, you're not supposed to be here. But whereas, like, if a rogue my big thing right now is wasps. It's
God.
It's the hot months. It's the hot months down here in the South. Wasps.
They're everywhere.
Dude, a rogue guy, I'm like, dude,
get the fuck out.
You're dead. Not even get the freak out. You're dead.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna and it's,
where's your fucking house? I'm killing your family.
Yeah. You stuck into my house. I'm gonna kill you and then go find your house and spray it and kill it. Right. But anyways, it's like, so to think about that, I started while we're talking about the movie. Obviously, I'm joking around.
Right.
I'm having fun.
If we end up finding a species of bug people, Ian is going to be on the warpath immediately.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't be, but I'm not saying that I wouldn't. I'm kidding. No, for me, but this is the point that I was making. Talking about all that, thinking about all that.
The real answer was, if we do, you're going to have some shit to work with.
Yes. Is that give me my flamethrower? No, I'm kidding. Is that thinking about it while we're watching this film, and the fact that there could be this, like, because they don't really look like ants per se, but they function like ants. There's a queen. They swarm. There's a hive of some kind. Like their ship kind of works as a hive that kind of fly around. So to think about like ants as well, like I have had like an ant problem around the house before, and I've like gotten it taken care of, with no remorse, really. So whenever
you just got too close.
Well, but so that's what I'm saying. It's like to take care, to think about this film in that aspect. When we were watching it, I started to think about that from a moral perspective of myself, of like looking at like an ant-like species and being like, do I think realistically an ant-like species that couldn't communicate like humans and is a bug
so fundamentally different
from me, could I look at that and go like, I can find some compassion there for it? And it's like right now, this moment, probably not. Right. But if there's some way that they could like, if I could communicate and like have that way of like boundaries, well, this just definitely sounds very xenophobic.
They're smart enough for space flight.
Right.
They're definitely able to reason.
Yeah. But it also makes me think of like, what is it from Space Marines? The Warhammer
Starship
40K.
Troopers?
No.
The Tyranids?
Warhammer 40K.
Oh, God. No, dude, it's Tyranids. They gotta fucking go.
I know, exactly. They're not bugs specifically, but they definitely feel like monster.
Yeah.
Like, anyways.
Bug-like, definitely.
It also made me think of if you've played Star Wars, specifically in the Old Republic era, in Star Wars: The Old Republic, the like MMO, again, another game, MMO that I've played a lot of, and I like a lot because I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
On Alderaan, there is an ant-like species called the Killiks, and they are, for all intents and purposes, a pest.
Ooh.
They are a hive mind, not very sentient race of.
We talking like actual insect?
We're talking we're talking about people size.
Oh my God! Okay,
like ant. Oh, hold on, I'll show you a picture. I think they do have some sort of smart functions, kind of like what we're talking about, but not enough.
Not quite up to the level of sapience.
They may have good communication with each other, but not quite to. It's like there's like a whole bunch of lore about it in the universe. But what I thought was interesting is that at the later part of the movie, our main character, Higgins, is that right? Wiggins, that's close. Wiggins says, like, what if they're trying to communicate with us, but they can't?
Right.
They don't have vocal cords. They don't have any way to communicate with us.
Maybe they think to each other.
Maybe they think to each other, like a hive mind or something like that. And it made me think about it because I had made a joke while we were watching. I was like, the last person I heard talk about that became one of them. And it was a character, like a companion in Star Wars: The Old Republic, that felt the same way about the Killiks. They're like, they're a pest. They know how to work weapons. They can like kill us and hurt us.
So something's going on.
So something's going on up there. But it's like no one can communicate with them, and they're just hurting people. So it's like
just outwardly hostile.
Right. So he then like tries to, almost like our boy in Pacific Rim, tries to like
mind meld with them.
Right, in some capacity, whatever, and like becomes part of the hive mind and is a different person.
Oh my god.
He becomes a different person. He he thinks about the hive and he is like, I am now one with the hive and anyways, it's a whole thing.
Damn.
And I was like, it was kind of scary. And I was like, let me just show you little pictures of these guys.
Oh my god.
Yeah. They can full on just like
that is just straight up an Ant-Man.
Yeah, that is an Ant-Man that can hold a rifle.
He's holding a fucking gun.
He's holding a whole ass rifle. And they are, like I said, they are not.
Jeez. I've never seen these guys before.
Really?
No.
Well, if you play on Star Wars: The Old Republic, on Alderaan specifically, they're like nest mounds.
Oh my
god!
god!
Dude, like I said, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
The more you hear about it, like the more you read about it, it's actually really interesting.
Whew.
But it's also kind of scary too.
Yeah, that's.
And so it makes me think about that as like,
man, it's a real hard sell to
right
have any kind of relation to like an insectoid species.
Right. That's where, and that was what I was talking about. While thinking about all this, watching this movie, really getting into it and seeing this whole progression of like how they're planning on attacking them,
mm-hmm.
I feel the same way that Harrison Ford's character, I forgot what his name was too.
Yeah, me too. I can't remember.
Graf.
Oh,
Graf.
Yeah.
Hiram Graf. You can tell that like Graf is definitely like, we need to take care of this.
Right.
This is a problem.
Treating them like actual ants as
Yes.
opposed to aliens.
Right. Sentient beings of some
Yes.
kind. And it definitely comes across that way. So I started thinking about it in that regard of like, where do I land on the spectrum of like compassion to a species like that?
Right. Because their first attack, they don't elaborate on that much. They just say that they came, they started fucking us up.
Right.
We fucked them up, and then they left and didn't show up again for 50 years.
Right. And then, of course, I think...
half a century.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
And then I think we went to them.
Yeah. Yeah, we built up a fleet and then started heading their way.
Right. Which definitely feels like a human thing to do.
Right.
A race of human. So we go to them, I think, basically to like...
Fuck them up.
Well, I think also...
At least that's what it seems like at first.
Right. I think it is to really put them in their place. But it's also, I think, because I think why they did that was because they were amassing a fleet.
Mm-hmm.
They were exploding in population like we were talking about.
We don't even know if they were coming back to us.
Right. They were just expanding and
Right.
going to other places.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was what made us as humans specifically like, oh shit, they are a threat.
Right.
Even though they may not, and this is the interesting part of the movie that comes about in that third act that we're talking about, that our main character, Wiggins, is, or I guess Ender as well, I think you call him as well, is trying to get across is that they are not intrinsically hostile.
Right. He's just trying to figure them out.
We are personifying their hostility like we do as humans.
Right.
And he was kind of trying to figure that out at the last bit of the movie. Mm-hmm. But because they're amassing this fleet, they're going to other places. They're not intrinsically coming against us. Right. We are like, because they are amassing such
in the bud.
They are by default, by doing that is
an affront to our species.
That is, yeah, exactly. That is sign enough that you are.
It's a very Imperium and or Cabal way to
think.
Oh
yeah. They have they have a planet that's like a forward base of action.
Mm-hmm. We took that from them.
Well, exactly. So that's what I was getting across, is that we get a fleet, we go to that like forward base of action planet, so that way we have a closer connection to them. Mm-hmm. And then we wipe out most of, wink, wink, most of them on that planet and like make that our base of action. Mm-hmm. Which already kind of felt like, okay, so like this is a war-like scenario because of how they're portraying it in this part of the film.
Yeah. They're definitely building it up.
Right. There is, in that second act that I was talking about, there's a lot of like training and a lot of establishing Ender as this natural leader in some way. So he kind of makes some friends along the way, and like his team is this amalgamation of all these different like friends he's made along the way.
Yeah.
These people that he has had disputes with, or friendships with, or disagreements, or agreements with. And he has this ragtag band of misfits that have all, in some way, have respect for him and make a really good team. It's really cool. Like I said, the second act does a good job of what it does. It just feels fast.
Yeah.
So you get to see that. Then we get to this beautiful third act that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We're in space. We're far beyond Earth, I'm assuming, in some way. And then they start to... He is a commander of this unit and of this smaller fleet as a whole.
Yeah.
They're talking to him about like doing these training missions, doing these like trial runs, where he is, for all intents and purposes, playing a real-time strategy game.
Yes.
Which is very interesting.
Motherfucker's playing Empire at War right now.
This guy right now is playing StarCraft in real life. Empire War, that's a good one. So they're doing these training runs, and they're like, if you're able to like succeed past this certain threshold,
if you graduate from the school, we will make you a fleet admiral.
Right, we'll make you in control of some real shit here. And of course, with that idea being packaged in that way, he still is having these kind of I don't want to say, well, I guess it sounds wrong when I say like sympathetic tendencies, where he is like, he is trying to reason in some way with them, trying to think about how this all works. And then this is where, before we get into this really deep part, there's another really crucial part. He has like this main antagonist character. They get into like a little brawl. Guy cracks his head on the curb of like this like ceramic like bathroom section.
Right.
And for all intents and purposes, probably brain dead or dead for all intents and purposes.
We'll see.
It is after that moment where he then threatens to leave. And also the major, who was like supposed to be, which I thought was a really cool dichotomy.
It was really nice.
Harrison Ford's character Graf, and I think it's Major Gwyn, played by Viola Davis, I believe is who it is. Oh man, those two. That is a great duo in the film, I will say.
Definitely.
It definitely feels like this angel demon on the shoulder of our main character.
Yeah.
Of Graf is trying to wipe out...
Instill the killer instinct.
Yes, is trying to wipe out this alien race of bugs with...
At any cost.
At any cost. And then...
It's like, that's the equivalent of, like, somebody like giving you a slap on the wrist so you murder their entire family.
Yes.
It's insane.
And then you have Major Gwyn, who is supposed to be, I don't want to say human resources, but is this...
She's like the guidance counselor.
The counselor, like this middle ground, is supposed to is there for the kids psychologically.
Yes,
and is trying to instill the psychological things towards them, whereas he's trying
the therapeutic angle.
Exactly, he's trying to get like the war mindset, the tactics, everything like that. He's trying to really instill it in the kids.
Oh yeah.
But then she over here is trying to also
make sure they don't turn into fucking robots.
Yes, it's also bring this human element to it, and it's so interesting because there's a couple of arguments that they have. That, again, they're both really talented actors, so you can really see it on the screen. Their talent really showing. There's a couple of times where like they have some arguments, and it's in that moment where like he wants to leave because he was in this altercation that ended up potentially killing this person.
Yeah,
that was unintentional, but also intentional out of self-defense.
Right.
He is breaking as a person almost. She is trying to be that middleman, and then Graf is really trying to push him past that to make him a better soldier.
Yeah.
And then she resigns. And
can't do it anymore.
And dude, it was after that little conversation that they had where like she was really done with it. I was like, man, what a great, those are some great characters.
Uh-huh.
And I thought that there's a couple of other scenes before that there's like this little disagreement that they have, and there was some really strong things that were said. I'm like, man, this is really good.
I love the dialogue in this movie.
Yes, yeah. I'm really building up to this one point, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So anyways, I just want to get to that because, again, that is what's now really paving the way for what is happening at that third act of the film. There is no angel on the shoulder anymore, no guidance counselor kind of person. So Graf is really pushing the team. He has this other person in play, which is the war hero from the beginning of the film, Rackham, Mazur Rackham.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that, like, for a while there, because of how they were saying it, I didn't know that, like, his name was spaced.
Oh, right.
So his name is Mazur, and then, of course, his last name is Rackham, or Rackham. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
But I just thought that, like, he's a human that has this super, like, futuristic alien name. I thought his name was Mazarakam. And so, like, all one word. And I was like, you want to talk about, like, the Dark Lord of the Abyss, Mazarakam, is what it sounds like.
He's a fucking Morlock.
Right, yeah, exactly. So he is not dead. A little surprise plot twist.
Yeah.
And he is, like, now the mentor. But he is just as bad, if not worse, than Graf in some ways.
Yeah.
So our boy Ender has a double dose of really hard war games going on here.
Kill them.
Yeah, kill them hard and with lots of firepower.
Oh yeah. Leave not even a single one.
You're right. And so there are a few moments where, as you can imagine, he's being overworked.
They have, like, these simulations.
Yes, quote unquote.
Of fleet battles.
Which is basically the StarCraft missions that we're talking about. It is, and I didn't know this fully. He is in charge of all these ships, and they're in this kind of like overlord room.
Yeah, almost like a stadium of sorts.
It reminds me so much of Evangelion in the last movie.
Like Nerve HQ.
Yeah, Nerve HQ, where he has like you have the main like platform and the ring down below. It's like the control arms of all the different things. It feels a lot like that, where you have each section has like a fleet or a job, and of course you got your commander on top who's like barking orders or whatever.
Yeah.
And in that is quote unquote simulations.
Right.
And there are multiple battleships in this kind of fleet that they're like moving around and killing subsequently like different splinter groups of these Formics.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't remember the ant race aliens. And again, they're assuming that this is all fake missions.
Right.
Which, whenever you're watching it, you're like, okay, it's understandable.
It's real fancy.
Yeah, real fancy for all that. But I didn't know this, is that the fleets have like people in them that were all controlling the drones that were around. I thought that
they are fully manned.
So I thought that the battleships were full of drones, and that just like they are remote, kind of telling the orders
it's
that
there's no human life at stake here.
I thought that the humans were also remote as well, controlling the ships. And so I didn't understand what was going on, and that was, I think, just a miscommunication on my end, because like you see these multiple clips of like these people with helmets on, and they have a bunch of like
that
stuff
are supposedly controlling the fighter squadrons.
Right. But again, because our main characters are all remote, controlling kind of like ordering the fleets around.
Yeah.
I thought it was the same thing. I thought it was like a controlled room next door. Like there's a bunch of kids that are all controlling all the drones from there. And I didn't know they were all
little Billy's driving a dreadnought.
Right, yeah, exactly. So to increase the tension, our boy is about to get his final promotion to admiral. The big wig.
Oh yeah.
The suits are in town.
Yes.
To really
the council,
the analogous council, the ever talked about but never seen council that shows up, and he gets the chance to do this one final mission, and it's
gotta ace your final exam,
right?
Bro.
Exactly. This is the end all be all. This is the simulation. Wink, wink. Of
the Formic homeworld.
The homeworld. get the whole fleet together, and you're going to go against the home world.
Yeah.
All you got to do is succeed. And then once you succeed this simulation, you get your promotion.
Yep.
Nothing's
real shit.
And it feels like nothing's at stake here.
Right.
Except for your promotion. You can either stay the same or get demoted or be promoted depending on how.
Find someone else.
Yeah, exactly. Something will happen.
No harm, no foul.
Exactly. So with that being said, you can imagine yourself in a simulation like that, maybe taking more risks than you would if there was lives on the line.
Right.
So you get the control of this fleet, and then, of course, as you can imagine, going into a situation like that, this is the first time where before they really go full on, they both establish that they know that each other are there, and they don't outright attack.
Right.
Which then signals our boy Ender to be like,
what are they doing?
They're not attacking.
Why are they waiting?
We're at the home world.
Their home planet, and they're not attacking.
And they're totally
just waiting.
Passive.
Right. It's like, what the fuck gonna...
Yes.
What is this?
And I think that they needed to hammer this up a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
But throughout the entire film, our boy Ender has never been the man to punch first a lot of times.
Right.
He has always been attacked in some way, or he's been bullied, or he's been pushed around, and then a lot of times he beats their ass and does it really well.
Make sure they stay beaten.
Exactly. Kicks them while they're down and is like, you know what? Don't frick with me again.
Yeah.
That has been his character.
Right.
And this is the first time in the film that he's going into a fight, and then he's the one that throws the first punch. And oh baby, I'm talking about, you want to talk about the culmination of a good character arc.
Oh yeah.
He throws the first punch by sending out a little squadron of drones. And like I said before, I'm going to go ahead and just break the ice here. The simulations aren't simulations.
Right.
They are, in fact...
He has been in control
of
a real fleet.
Live fire drills where he is, in fact, winning and losing actual
entire
battles.
Ships. Yes.
Entire ships that have people on them that are also controlling the drones there. So at that point, I was like, okay, I can see here that like it felt like you can tell that it's obviously not fake drills. Because we're getting to the end of the movie, and again we're also kind of getting to the climax here, and so it's like
wrap it up.
So I'm like, okay, something's got to give here. This feels very real. But after that happened, he attacked first with the drones. Then of course they start to swarm and defend themselves, just like he used to do. And I was like, oh man.
Fuck.
I was like, dude, you want to talk about like active storytelling, where it's like this is because it was like a good triple take where it's like
some good cohesion.
He has gotten beat up once, defended himself. He's gotten beat up twice, defended himself, and now there's a chance where he's not getting beat up, but he's thrown the first punch. And he has always said that he was like he feels bad for it. He almost, there's a couple times where in his character, he vocally says that, like, I feel bad for defending myself a little bit because I have to beat them to prove to them to stop beating me up. And it's like, I personally feel for that kid because I've been there. I've been in that same place where it's like, I don't want to have to beat you up, but I will. I will beat the shit out of you to prove to you that I can stand up on my own. So for me, in that moment, I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt. This is gonna be heavy." We talked about this in one of our favorite series, Cowboy Bebop.
Yes,
you're gonna carry that weight.
Boy, are you?
And dude, are you gonna carry the weight of a planet? There was a missed opportunity, and I feel like,
oh god,
do you remember what they called the big double cannon ship?
The Little Doctor.
The Little Doctor. And I felt like, I was like, man, you have a missed opportunity here.
It would have been so corny if they called it the Exterminator.
I thought about it. I was like, it should have been called the Exterminator.
You might as well call it Raid at that point.
I mean, okay. You think that Graf wouldn't call it that?
He might.
He may as well have at that point.
Oh, man.
Anyways, it's like this double cannon, like super big laser that if it hits one of the motherships, it has the ability to
molecular detachment cannon.
Yes, has it has the ability to what is it called? Like a domino effect.
Right. It's just like change from one target.
A chain reaction.
Yep.
It has, whenever it hits one, it has the chain reaction of hitting the swarm, which also then blows up the rest of the fleet.
Dissolves them.
So for good tension's sake, for tension of the film, they kill one of the big ships, and they're like, oh, awesome, because it kills that little small section of the fleet.
Right. They take out, like, the outer defense fleet for the planet first.
Right. That was just sitting there, minding its own business.
Right.
So they blow it up. Little chain reaction happens. They kill like 2 or 3 of them, or 3 or 4 of them. I can't remember.
And now they got to deal with the interplanetary defense fleet.
Then once that happens, it is just like they stomped the nest, literally.
Oh, yeah.
They all wake up, and they come in droves.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of them.
Odds are stacked against them.
Oh, man. And again, this is where it gets hard. Because, again, if this was a simulation and no lives are at stake, you start taking some risks.
Right.
That you normally, if people's lives were on the line, you probably
would not
take. And so he really starts pushing it. He starts abandoning the other battleships so that way all of the drones can then protect the main cannon while it's on cooldown.
Right.
To then go gung-ho.
They just charge right in.
They charge right in for the planet because they're going to try and blast the planet and cause a chain reaction, knock the whole baby out.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh, shit. This
Exterminatus.
is Exterminatus style. We're talking glassing of the planet.
Oh, yeah.
And in the process of doing that, I think they probably started off with including the big ship, 5 or 6 battleships.
I want to say
something like that. So, as you can imagine, the rest of the fleet's getting chewed up, getting destroyed, subsequently one by one. And they're protecting the big MD, was it?
Yeah,
ship.
MD.
Just trying to drill a hole through with all the drones. And kind of like,
it looks really cool.
Oh, yeah. They're trying to have like a callback to what happens earlier in the show. And like during one of like the little fight sequences they have as cadets.
Right.
It's really interesting. But as they're making their way through, again, like I said, for good tension's sake, in the heat of the moment, oh my God, last minute.
Right.
They blast the planet, and I mean, it causes a big chain reaction.
Yeah.
And it is like a wave over the whole planet. And then, of course, as it all happens, the kids get kind of excited, but then like the big wigs, they're all like, oh shit. Like
wow, okay.
Damn.
There you go.
Because you just killed off a whole fleet worth of people.
Kiddo.
They're like, they don't know whether to be excited or not.
Yeah.
Or relieved. And then it all starts to click because the simulation screen doesn't like go away with a mission success screen. It's like all hunky dory.
They bring it back and they do like close up, like glamour shots of what you just did.
They really get up close shots to make sure, like, did we really kill off this planet?
Let's just make sure real quick.
Yeah, and so as they were doing that, again, the whole team's like, what are we doing? Like, why is the simulation showing us these like really detailed pictures and it's like really camping out here for a while? And like, of course, he doesn't get a straight answer, but he knows.
Rackham and Graf come right up behind him and are like, you did it. I'm like, I did fucking what?
I did what? I don't understand.
I passed my exam.
They're like, oh, no.
It's like, nah, that was real. And you're like, oh, what?
Yeah. Oh, and then, of course, as you can imagine, he runs off and is like,
he is almost distraught. He almost like vomits.
He almost vomits,
disgusted with himself.
And dude, this line, there is a good, real moment where he shouts at Graf. It's real mad. And then starts talking about it. And he was like, you did what you had to do. You saved the rest of humanity. He's like trying to justify his actions.
Right.
And this kid, little teenage guy over here, our main character, Ender, looks at him in the face and says, I am going to live with the... I will
carry the weight of this genocide for the rest of my life.
I will carry the weight of this genocide for the rest of my life. And
that shit was fucking raw, dude.
That is so metal.
Ooh.
Dude, he said that, and I was like, that is the most mature and real statement.
Oh, yeah.
And also with the major being gone, it's like, man, you have ruined this kid.
He's not going to grow up normal.
Dude, that kid, underneath no circumstances, is ever going to be the same. He just pulled the trigger on wiping out an entire species.
Yep.
And man, I was like,
even a grown man would not.
Oh no!
Sit well with
hell
that.
no! Even a man that's probably like really, really wanted to do something like that would probably still be like, "Damn, I can't believe I did that."
Yeah.
It was such a. There was that moment, and a few things after that were like him trying to like understand and kind of come to grips with the reality of it all.
I think another one of my favorite lines in that whole exchange was whenever Graf goes, "We won. That's all that matters."
Yes.
And then it cuts back with, "No, the way we win matters."
Dude, there's a couple of raw lines.
Yeah. It's rough stuff.
Dude, after that whole altercation happened, I was like, dude, this is some real shit.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought this was going to be like a really fun kind of kid movie about like saving the world or saving the galaxy.
Nah, son.
I was like, we're dealing with some heavy shit here.
Yeah.
I was like, man, it was crazy. But like, he kind of gets hit. We're running really low on time. That's okay though. But but the thing is, it was an interesting movie, and I had a lot to say about it.
Right.
But he gets a chance to redeem himself. Mm-hmm. He is now Fleet Admiral, and they kind of let him do his own thing. Right. And so
it's like, fuck it, you save the world, do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. Which I mean, at the very least, I think he should have that his freedom to do whatever the hell he wants. So he ends up finding like the last surviving of this race. Mm-hmm. The last surviving queen. She has an egg, like a child that he finds, and then goes off to find a place to rekindle their race. I'm assuming, as like a. And I think at the end he says that. What was he? He said, "I think I did something. I'm not gonna say it verbatim because I don't remember. But it was basically like, I did a good job destroying this race. Let's see how good of a job I can do.
Right.
Of like repopulating.
I hope I'm as talented at peace as I am with war."
Yes. Yeah. Right. Anyways, so it was just that last few minutes definitely was just real gut wrenching.
Oh yeah.
I had a few little bits of trivia that I think are interesting. I'm not going to go really deep into it.
Yeah.
But it says that the U.S. Marine Corps has Ender's Game, the book, on its recommended reading list for officers, saying that it offers lessons in training methodology, leadership, and ethics as well. So it's one of those things that they actually suggest reading it. To achieve the effect of weightlessness, the actors and actresses in the battle room, 2 rigs were invented for the movie, used to capture zero-gravity scenes.
That's cool.
It says the first was a lollipop arm, apparently was what it's called, which is like a counterbalancing machine that offers like a full range of motion. And the second innovation was called a people crane. and it's a contraption kind of like the previous one, but put on air pucks so that the effect looks like you're floating around in the air. I don't know how it works, but it's interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Neato.
Yeah. There's a handful of other stuff.
Oh yeah.
They consulted with actual like space people for like certain things.
Real people?
Yeah. Like people
from space?
People from NASA, people from SpaceX. It says that the producer consulted with SpaceX CEO Elon Musk at the time to discuss a future space shuttle technology depicted in the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So there's, like I said, there's a whole bunch of really cool stuff. Normally we kind of have this. I have been recently doing this with episodes where I
facts that some may consider fun.
Yes. And we kind of ran out of
we spent longer than usual on this.
Yeah. I think it's also we talked about Destiny at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And I also really did. I really had a moral conflict with the whole bug debacle. So so that usually weighs our time down a little bit.
Yeah, it's all good though.
And have an existential crisis about if I'm going to be xenophobic towards bug people.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
I'll be fine. But anyways, thank you so much for listening. If you're looking for ways to listen or get in contact with us, all of the links are in the show notes. Or I guess the main linktree/Ian Wolf. You can also type in the Aftermath on those platforms. You should be able to find us. But until next time, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it.
See you later.
Bye.